Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today I want to talk about an experience that I had with an Uber driver. My wife and I share a car. Well, actually, that's just a polite way of saying my wife has a car. And I use Uber periodically when I need to use Uber. I typically use Uber at times when I'm exhausted, or I just need to do something quickly, or I don't want to think about anything. I just want to get to a location and get away. And through a variety of factors, I find myself in Uber between maybe once a week to maybe 5 times a week, usually of that order, depending on how things go. I really fundamentally dislike taxi services. I think the taxi industry has been something that I've experienced as an international traveler, and even in the Bay Area when I used to live here. I used to just have a bike when I lived here. And in this regard, I feel that Uber is doing an amazing service associated with it addressing a socially imbalanced problem, which is associated with how the taxis collude with typically local government in order to provide suboptimal services. That's my speech associated with Uber. I took an Uber on Friday in order to get into work and do some stuff. My wife was away. I needed to pick up some things at work and also return to 2017 plumbing, which is a theme for a future short film recording. When I got into the Uber driver was noticeably shaken, and he detailed the situation where he was robbed the night before and had been driving Uber ever since. They'd basically taken all his savings, and all he could do was continue to drive for Uber, waiting for Monday morning when he'd get paid. And I thought this was just such a disturbing circumstance, and I didn't want to be part of this abuse cycle, and I felt like I was being part of the abuse cycle even using Uber in this circumstance. So when we stopped at the location, I gave the guy a substantial tip, in fact, 4 times the Uber cost. And then I insisted that he come and get some food with me. And he passed on food and water and a variety of things and made sure he had a salad to go, which is what he wanted, and just sent him on his way. I thought this was my means of addressing some imbalance in the world, which ultimately I had some control over at that period of time. And although a lack of a flushing toilet or an inability to do laundry, feeling guilty associated with showering, these kind of things petty compared to the terror that this fellow had faced with a armed robber taking his life savings. And I thought to myself, you can show humanity in small circumstances, but when you do, it adds a little bit back into the general continuum of things. And on some level, I have this kind of pass-it-on philosophy that I enact periodically. I was eating out in the community recently in the local fast spot, and I tried to pay for a police officer's meal. Historically, the way I've done this is I've just paid for the meal. But the police officer was picking up to-go food, and we were both at the cash register at the same time. So I said, look, I can't let you do this. And I stuck out a $20 note to pay for his food. And he was kind of, I don't know, taken aback by it, and he just refused, basically. I wasn't going to fight the guy for the opportunity to buy his lunch. But I try to do these things periodically, and my wife also does it through giving out Starbucks gift cards at the end of the year to a variety of folk that we just interact with on a periodic basis. And for everything else that one does in the world, trying to do these little bits and pieces, you're hoping you can readdress some balance which seems thoroughly out of whack currently. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.